to the great Jeff Truscott.
With his long, wavy, beautiful hair.
Look through the window, Jeff Addis. Give us a big that look. He's a lovely fellow.
He popped in, had a chat.
He did. Good on him. Yeah, good musical that too. Hair that came out back in '69, I think.
69.
Yeah, wow. You would have been. Were you born?
I was just born.
Just born. Yeah. You didn't have much hair.
No, not a heck of a lot.
Anyway, so hair very quickly.
Yeah.
Is hair with problems?
Well, it's really a sign of good or bad health.
Is it really?
Oh, well, except there are genetic factors, obviously, but...
Plenty of grey hair. Is that good? Does that look good?
You've got a great head of hair there, Rusty.
Okay. All right, Madonna. Let's get down to the serious stuff.
Yeah. So Linda worked with me for about 10 years at New Leaf. And she has done a heck of a lot of things like kinesiology and structural balancing and brain integration and that sort of thing. So since I've got Linda here today...
Yes, Madonna.
Yeah. What sort of things have you seen when you've had your structural balancing done? People think chiropractic when they think when they think structural balancing, or going to the physio as the number one way of sorting out the structure in their body. What sort of things did you find when you started having kinesiology regularly?
Well, and I was actually talking to the acupuncturist in your clinic yesterday, because he said, how do you know Madonna? And I talked about how we met in a first aid course 20 odd years ago, and we started swapping.
She was front row, I was back row.
We started swapping some massage therapy, and then I met an awesome kinesiologist who's now retired in Queensland called Ross Smith, who specialised in neural organisation technique. And I'm just on 6 foot, and 20 odd years ago I was still quite bent over, and in
tall girl syndrome.
In NOT, there's some wonderful tools for resetting tendons, and it also looks at how the brain's reflex systems coordinate and hold our body in space. And so it's a way to sort of get behind and into the programming, I guess, of the body, of why it holds the alignments that it does. So I can remember walking into the room and Madonna was like, wow, what's happened to you? And I went, I've found this guy and this neural organisation technique. And
we'd been swapping massages weekly, and 1 week her body just looked and felt totally different.
You up. You said you were...
Yeah, a big part for me
using a kinesiology protocol.
Yeah, and my bicipital tendons weren't sitting in their grooves properly, and that had really pulled my shoulders inwards, and resetting those. It's a process that you do feel.
Yeah.
You sure do. That one can be ouchy.
You have to give me his name off air. He might be able to strike. Could be 6 foot tall.
No, we'll go and see Madonna. Madonna and I went on to study in OT, and Ross is now retired. But it certainly had a profound experience in my life.
Tall and handsome rather than just handsome and short.
Yeah.
We were really lucky. We went down to Melbourne, I don't know, maybe 18, 19 years ago, and met Carl Ferrari, who's the guy who actually developed it. He's since passed away at 89 years old or something. But he was really quite amazing. I sort of feel like, I remember one of my clients after that course, I came back into my clinic and she said, oh my God, it's like you're 30% more intelligent after every course you go to. He was just phenomenal.
He was, and he stayed behind at lunchtimes to give me extra treatments. My ears would never equalise when flying, and every time I fly, like yesterday morning, my ears just equalised. I'm like, thank you, Carl Ferrari. He took that tension out of my cranial bones.
Yeah.
And
like you were a real mess.
I was a mess.
Yeah, so because what ends up happening when you're inflamed, so people don't sort of think about inflammation as causing structural problems, but it absolutely can.
No.
So the inflammation that can be caused from having gluten 12 times a day when you're gluten sensitive and don't know it, or the inflammation that's caused because of chronic stress. We haven't even mentioned stress today. So stress is such a huge inflammatory process in our body. So getting that stress under control in whatever manner that works for you, yoga or Pilates or meditation or massage or acupuncture or exercise, it doesn't matter. You've got to get that stress under control.
Feel stress, can't you? I know if I'm stressed, I can feel it in my body. I can feel it there.
Yeah. My hubby hardly ever feels it, but I reckon he's just going to be an ulcer. So he will have like a month at work where he never says anything to me, and then all of a sudden I'll say, oh, my guts are a little sore today. And I'll go, and I'll go, has it been stressful? I'll go, yes. I'll go, but he hasn't said anything. So I go, slap. So, and I'll change his supplements so that we just sort it out. But, people have to start looking at what's causing that imbalance. Like for Linda, of course, being a tall girl and talking to people always shorter than her, that puts a huge strain on the back, the neck, the shoulders.
And growing, I was this height by the time I was 12. So also having furniture, I'm just renovating some furniture at home, and I'm actually building up my table and my chairs to my height. And someone said to me, well, what about all the short people? And I go, no. They come and go. Everyone in my family is tall, so for the rest of us, we can at least kind of sit at some furniture and it be functional
and be comfortable. Yeah.
I suppose I know a family in Beaudesert where my mum was mayor, and they had to literally change the entire household to wheelchair height. But the rest of the family, so the government paid for the wheelchair height everywhere, but the rest of the family was out of kilter. So, common sense has to prevail, doesn't it?
Of course it does, yeah. That's where you start feeling sorry for people that do have, amputees and things, and all different things that can happen. People that are just, born dwarf, it's a very difficult life,
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So we do a lot of structural balancing at New Leaf. So the NOT, Georgia does a lot of structural balancing through emotional kinesiology. So people who have, say, emotional gear coming down through the DNA. So, occasionally when you're throwing a hissy fit and you go, gee, that was just like my grandfather, or gee, that was just sometimes we recognise those DNA moments in our stress, because it's often when we're stressed. We notice that.
Yeah.
And then we have an emotional outburst and we go, man, that was like a 6-year-old. You're sort of in that moment, we simply go back to an old stress pattern that we've done over and over again.
And we're all guilty of it, aren't we?
And I think, we were talking last night about just stress patterns and how certain stress patterns get locked up in muscular function in the body, and through the neurological, like the nervous system kinesiology that we do that really looks at their stress patterns. Madonna and I over time actually started integrating that with our structural work. So really relevant when you've had an injury.
Absolutely.
To reference back to what's your brain done with that trauma. Oh, it's still stuck in it.
Right.
Yeah, so a car accident or a whiplash or walking under the house and bonking your head, getting into the car. Well, how often does it happen? Or getting into a car and banging your head. You don't think of that in a whiplash in that moment.
Yeah.
But it's Jessica Malboy was singing at Eurovision. She got a whiplash, and they said on one of those funny shows last night, "How'd you get a whiplash?" And I said, "Well, from flicking a hair, obviously." And that was the answer, because I thought I've given myself a whiplash by flicking my hair. I knew what she'd done instantly.
I walked out to one of the little liquor outlets and dropped a bottle of wine.
Oh, that was a stress.
The good thing about it was I went into the shop and said to the lady, "Can I get a broom to clean up this bottle?" She said, "Oh, just bring the bottle back in, sweep it all up, and we'll replace it."
Oh, wow.
They put it in their bin.
Oh, nice.
But anyway,
so if someone's had chronic pain, chronic stress, chronic ill health since something happened, and it's often that since, so have a think about it. Was it since you had a certain amount of vaccines when you were 12? Was it since you had a car accident at 23? Was it since you got married? It's sort of like thinking back and going, well, when did my life start to change? Sometimes I actually say, have you ever been healthy? And there's a lot of people who never remember really being healthy and happy in their life. So then you've got to actually go right to the gut and to the mother stuff. So the microbiome, that first 1,000 days, looking after the gut and the immunity is so crucial. So it's really about looking at that timeline with the person in front of us and working out exactly what you need to do. So, and sometimes you cannot work on the gut or the liver or the detox pathways until you get that done. Stress under control. It trumps everything.
Yeah. Is it accepted, as we age, that things will happen like that? Or do we just expect to, are you saying we should be just healthy and happy right until the end?
Well, I think people should be able to be happy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like happiness should be a given, but healthy, that comes down to people's choices. So, for example, if I'm choosing to smoke a packet of cigarette a day and have a bottle of wine every night, I'm not going to be as healthy as someone who doesn't choose to do that. So, therefore, my trajectory with health is going to have a whole different direction. So, what we would do with someone who isn't willing to give those things up is really support those detox mechanisms with the lifestyle that they're choosing to do, and you can do that as well.
And I think that also brings in the stress. A lot of people use those things as part of their stress management. So as you work with the neurological kinesiology and chip away really at those stress pathways, people really start functioning very differently.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, girls, I'm going to have to pull the end there and say that's it. But we're heading towards that.
No, that's fabulous, Rusty.
So thanks very much. It's been very educational. I'm sure the listeners hopefully they've got something out of it.
Yeah, and thanks, Linda, coming in today. Fabulous.
When are you heading back home, Linda?
I'm in Queensland doing some work over the weekend, and then I head down to Sydney and actually working with some people at Mind Body Spirit on a stand there, educating people about stem cell nutrition and how we can enhance our own stem cell migration. It's a big passion of mine.
She's pretty much full-time trainer these days.
Good on you.
Yeah.
All right, well, you have a good trip while you're here. Take it nice and easy, and thanks for coming in and talking to us, and we'll catch up with you pretty soon. Okay.
Okay.
It's
Thanks,
just
Rusty.
on 4 minutes to 12 here at Bay FM.
Time next week.